now all over the world. As we know, drip irrigation, of course, was developed in Israel with the advances that also took place there, with many other countries also now developing and manufacturing drip irrigation equipment. But every type of irrigation system can be efficient. You see gravity irrigation, there are evidence that it could be up to 85% efficient. Sprinkler irrigation also up to 85. But you see right at the bottom, the state-of-the-art water management, where soil moisture management and delivery system are in place. You can obtain up to 100% efficiency. So in terms of micro-irrigation, the three types of irrigation that we look at there is drip, microjet, and micro-sprinkler. And if one look at the early history of micro-irrigation, many years ago in 1860, it already started with some developments in Germany. There was some work in the United States. In the 1920s, again in Germany. But it is only later on, after World War II, that things started to develop with the availability of plastic pipes. And therefore, we have seen different types of systems started to develop. And in 1959, new technology of drip irrigation was introduced in Israel by Simcha Blas and his son Yeshayahu, where they developed and patented the first practical surface drip irrigation emitter. And of course, as we know, drip could be either surface or subsurface, applying water to the root zone with the nutrients and applying at the right amount at the right place for the crop to utilize it, and therefore one of the most efficient type of irrigation systems that one could use. And of course, Simcha Blas and how the systems developed from that early years in 1965 up to the systems that we are using today. In terms of the survey that we did, you will see there was an increase in the use of micro-irrigation. From 1981 to 2021, our next updated data will be 2026. But you can see the percentage increase was 4,487%. If one put it on a graph, you can see 1981 there was only a small portion of 0.4 million hectares, and at the moment, 2021 onwards, it reached a total of 20 million hectares. And many countries all over the world are practicing micro-irrigation, and of these, a total of 15 countries with 44 countries are manufacturing and marketing drip irrigation products. So if one further look at the statistics, you'll see India is the top country in terms of micro-irrigation, followed by China, Spain, and the rest in terms of utilization of that. So the rise in popularity of drip irrigation solutions can be attributed to government initiatives, water conservation activities, enhancement of production, and decrease in production cost. And this market is also driven by factors as population growth, increasing withdrawal of water for agriculture, limited land resources, unpredictable rainfall patterns, and of course demand for biofuel in developing countries. And if one analyzes the micro-irrigation penetration as a percentage of the total irrigation, you will see Mexico 3.2%, China 8%, and it goes on with India, there 12.7% of their micro-irrigation out of the total irrigation that they irrigate of 70 million hectares. And of course, Israel irrigates 73.6% with micro-irrigation systems. So according to the research report, Drippers Market by Type, they predict by the year 2027, the growth will be $288 million US in 2022, and there will be a huge increase, annual growth rate of 10.2% in value, up to $469 million by 2027. So, Chairman, to look at the different practices in different countries of the world, first of all, I go to my home country, South Africa, where we are on the southern tip of Africa, and where we are applying micro-irrigation in different ways, of which drip is one of them. And you'll see on sugarcane, this is a system, 12,000 hectares of sugarcane, a dual row planting at 1.8 to 1.9 meters center to center, designed for a peak demand of 7.7 millimeters per day. See the drip emitters, 1.7 liters per hour, spaced at 0.92. It was specially manufactured for the project at that spacing. Drip tape, wall thickness 0.4, the length is 200 to 500 meters. And then, of course, the installation was done mechanically with 3 rows installed mechanically with the subsurface drip installed. And then the planting of the sugarcane is tramline on both sides of the dripper line. Filter station, various products that has been used to clean the water before it enters the drip system due to the fine particles that should be filtered out. And of course, there are backflush timers, pressure differential switches. There you can see the cluster house. And then, of course, there will be a pre-wetting cycle, either, well, first of all, to improve the seed-soil contact. Sometimes they'll also utilize a sprinkler system just to wet the surface so that germination can take place. The cane rows are 400 millimeters apart, and then the plant furrows installed with the machine, the covering of the machine of the ridges, the lateral just below the seed cane, and then the ridge is about 5 to 7.5 centimeters in height, and the lateral depth varies between 10 and 15 centimeters. So then covering of the first irrigation, and you will see there's the irrigation that takes place with the tram line with the 2 rows of 400 millimeters on 200 millimeters on either side of the dripper line. And after germination and planting, you'd see the growth. And of course the total tons of sucrose per hectare, how it developed through the different systems, furrow showed there in red, drip irrigation with the blue, sprinkler irrigation in green, and then, sorry, the center pivots, excuse me, for that was introduced later. If you want to look at micro-irrigation in China, also a big role player in the usage, thank you very much, usage of your drip irrigation, also big manufacturing plants where they started to introduce that in 1974, and how it have developed over years. And in 2022, the area reached 7 million hectares. And the investment in that is 139 billion. What is the Chinese? They will know what is the money unit, but you can see where all the irrigation takes place. So during the period 1970 to 1990, the main efforts made were to test and to use micro-irrigation on vegetables and orchards, and they have recognized that as an efficient and cost-effective method for crop with high value. Then initial stages with all the developments, all the challenges that they faced, and then of course the application, either in greenhouses with of course on cotton and of maize, and of course also manufacturing plants where they also export to various countries all over the world with both drippers and micro sprayers of various kinds, different flow rates, different spacings. System design and evaluation methods are becoming more sophisticated with hydraulic design, fertigation. They looked at soil types and the type of crops that they irrigate. In terms of micro-irrigation in India, that you might be much more acquainted with, the Indian micro-irrigation potential, you can see the total irrigation is 72.17 million hectares, with micro-irrigation making up about 15.8% So there's still a small portion, but with the vision of the government and implementation, they would like to increase that to a much higher percentage. So the irrigated area, 65 million hectares. The net area sown is 141 million hectares. And you will see the area covered under micro-irrigation with drip, 6.11 million hectares, and sprinkler irrigation, 6.79 million hectares. So the current status, you see the different countries or areas. Maharashtra is 7.3% of the area is penetrated with micro-irrigation, where that's been applied with the highest, Haryana with 16.3%. So the country in total is only standing at 5.5%. So the net irrigated versus micro-irrigation area in the different areas, you'll see the irrigation area there in Maharashtra is 3169, and of course with micro-irrigation that is 8,980,000 hectares. And different crops. There's a total of 65 different crops that are grown on micro-irrigation in India, with the potential, area potential of micro-irrigation of the different crops, cereals, pulses, cotton, right through to the spices that can be irrigated. Cane Agro integrated drip irrigation system in Sangli, Maharashtra, with the supply of the water. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to present to you micro-irrigation practices used in different countries. As I was the former president of the International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage, I had the opportunity also to be part of the team that collated the statistics of micro-irrigation in the world, and I will share that with you this morning. So during my presentation, I will have some introductory remarks. We will look at irrigation as a practice, then specifically micro-irrigation, and then, of course, the practices used in different countries, and then lastly, some concluding remarks. So in terms of introduction, if you go through newspapers, through publications, through literature of various companies, you will see there is a lot of news or information that they share with us. I only picked one or two, and one of them is, of course, drip irrigation for sugarcane farmers, which could increase yields by as much as 40%, can soon become a reality. That was a publication a number of years ago. And then another reporter wrote, the drip nozzle can save up to 80% in water consumption when compared with conventional overhead sprayers. But of course, there's also stories of bad news. And I've picked three of them. And you can see the very first one is precisely the same amount of water can be wasted with drip irrigation as with other systems, if not managed correctly. So that is a word of warning that yes, drip is there, it's safe water, but be careful, you must manage it. Second one, there are many questions to answer and much information to gather before choosing a system. Otherwise, it could lose your money. And then the last one, many farmers still believe that they have water to spare, then an irrigation system is a must, and that it will automatically profits. Nothing could be further from the truth. So homework must be done. We must look at all the options and then make a decision. Fortunately, there are research institutions like VSI. There are companies that are selling equipment, that are innovating equipment, and then, of course, the producers. And the success lies between those three parties, you could say: research, companies and the producers. But what is the binding factor? The binding factor, of course, is water. Water brings us all together, and it provides us with information that we could utilize. So if you look at water as a natural resource, then of course, if you look at the world, 2% of our water is in the polar ice caps. 97% is salty water, and we only have 1% available for use. And in terms of the available water, you'll see there on the left-hand corner, rainfall comprises of 110,000 of cubic kilometers per annum. And that makes up 100% of the water. And then, of course, you see bioenergy and forests, you see crop, but then you also see crop livestock as well as irrigation. So irrigation utilizes up to 1.4% of that natural resource to provide to crops. So what is water? Water, of course, we know is the only substance that is essential for life, for human consumption, and then, of course, also for agriculture and for irrigation. Applying water to provide food, to secure food and to assist with food securities, dating thousands of years ago when different techniques were utilized to irrigate and to apply water to the crops. And through the years, a number of developments took place that also assist the irrigation farmers in planting their crops and irrigating it. And in terms of the water that we receive by means of natural rainfall, you will see that 70% of that water is still used for agriculture worldwide. Some countries, of course, utilize much more, but on average, 70% is for agriculture, industry 23%, and then domestic about 8%. So in terms of the availability of water, you'll see the map of the world. Dark blue means more than 50,000 cubic meters per country per annum. The lighter colors, like the yellows and the orange, means less than 1,700 cubic meters per annum, per person. So that sounds a lot of water, but in essence, it is not that much water. So the agricultural sector is by far the biggest user of water. It accounts for 70% of the total water withdrawal. In Africa and Asia, it goes up to 85 to 90%, and only 19% of the world's cultivated areas are irrigated. So in terms of usage, you will see the pinkish color means that it is industry related or dominant. Green means it is agriculture dominant, where irrigation is taking up most of the water. In terms of utilization of water, you'll see it from 0.1 cubic kilometer per annum that's used by a country up to 685. And India is that red color that utilizes 685 cubic kilometer per annum. And of course, with all the other countries, the volumes that they use. So what is the drivers or the impact on water usage? The global population growth taken from the early 1960s, and the prediction towards 2050 is that we will reach a population in the world of 10 billion people. So everyone needs to be fed. We need to have water for irrigation, industry. So that is part of our dilemma and challenges that we are facing. And it's predicted by the year 2030, that is only 6 years away, that 2/3 of the world population will be affected by water shortages. And you will see the red parts means there will be less than 1,000 cubic meter per person per year. And that is also over the next 6 years. The orange means between 1,000 and 2,000 cubic meters, and over 2,000 the blue colors. So Africa, the Middle East, and some parts of Europe will be affected. So the importance of water, water is the key to food security. It's not just for primary production. It connects us all together, and we need to be more water smart. So if you want to look at irrigation, I think everybody in this audience know what is irrigation. It is to apply the desired amount of water at the correct application rate and uniformly to the whole field at the right time with the least amount of non-beneficial water or losses and as economically as possible. And typically we classify the systems in flood, mobile and static, and you will see in terms of micro irrigation that forms part of the static group, and that is drip, micro sprayer irrigation. So irrigation studies and research over many years on the techniques of microgravity sprinkler mechanized irrigation contributed tremendously to the knowledge base of applying irrigation methods correctly. And in terms of the water dependency, most of the agricultural fields are rain-fed, 1,233 million hectares, and the rest, of course, 300 million hectares are being irrigated with different techniques utilized in different ways in different parts of the world. So in terms of the water utilization, as I've said, 70% by agriculture, either using center pivots or drip or sprinkler, overhead or subsurface, applying water correctly at the right time to provide the amount of water that is producing the crop with the least amount of water. So drip irrigation is advancing and growing the fastest at the present moment in the world by applying that. And of course, as I've stipulated, only 300 million hectares is irrigated. So in terms of statistics from ICID, you'll see the growth from 1950 to the year 2024 with the irrigation that took place. But what is interesting, if you analyze the data, you will see in the 1980s, 1990s, we reached a peak in terms of the amount of area irrigated per 1,000 of people. And then after that, it is a declining curve due to the fact that the development of irrigated agriculture do not keep pace with the population growth. And this is typically how the systems are being utilized. You'll see micro irrigation is at the moment 20 million hectare, which entails only 7% of the total area irrigated. And the micro irrigation concept was developed in South Africa to contain dust on mine heaps, and from there it developed to the advanced systems that is being utilized. This is one system, block 19 hectares, and the total area of 815 hectares. Most probably are acquainted with this system, with subsurface drip and 85 hectares per million cubic meters of water. So you can see how much more can be irrigated with drip irrigation, and with flood only 40 hectares per cubic meter. This is an example of one of a big irrigation project by Jane, where they are irrigating 12,000 hectares, different zones, which they've developed with a total infrastructure, resource development with automatic web-based system that communicate with the wells, applying the water at the different areas from the reservoir where the water has been taken through the water sump into the project, and applying the water in field for the different areas to be irrigated. So smart irrigation, of course, there are new, innovative and emerging technologies or solutions in irrigation, to name but a few, augmenting and improving water supply, improving water use efficiency, and managing water demand and maintaining irrigation systems. And the future is, of course, digitization and process information into digital format by generating a series of numbers that can be used for food production improvement from the planting right through to the farm management system with your field sensors, your irrigation nodes, with your weather maps, soil information, farm performance information, seed optimization application. So saving water on a large scale. Today, agricultural automation is closer to the world of the web. The new control unit allowed to have a total remote control through the web via PC, tablet, or smartphone, allowing the farmer to keep under control his own plants without necessarily being on the ground. Smartphone, of course, has become a real remote control tool, allowing opening and closing of valves, operations and or anomalies check, activate or stop established programs and generate new ones. All this with a considerable reduction of assistance cost and perfect digitalization of processes that become more precise and efficient. To show you one or two new technologies, mobile drip, where drip irrigation has been combined with center pivots. So that is called the mobile drip system. We got a number of them in South Africa where a pivot will be fitted with drip lines, and with your soil analysis you can apply then variable rate irrigation, applying the right amount of water where it's needed, and you modify the pivot with your control units and applying the dripper lines a certain length. You can see the length in terms of the dripper lines. It is not the normal dripper line as we know it. The length you can see there for a pivot up to say 400 meters. The dripper line, when you operate at 100 kilopascal, is in a region of about 9 meters, with the drippers 150 millimeters spaced. And then, of course, in terms of your application, you can see how the system is operating, pulling it through the field, and then only that strip is being irrigated. Of course, you have to plant your crop in rows, but that apply the water precisely where the crop is needed. There's a dripper line, how it's been applied, and then of course the growth is magnificent and water saving is imminent. Then another technology is what we refer to as a drip performance meter, where you can actually measure what's happening in the field. So digitally measure flow rates of drippers individually and how even the water is being delivered. So you can measure 25, statistically that's the minimum amount, and that provides then vital information. At the moment, worldwide, it is done manually, but with this apparatus, by the press of a button, it will immediately tell what is the liter per hour in the field of the dripper. After you have tested 25 drippers in the field, you can then determine the average liters per hour. You can determine the coefficient of irrigation with the classification, and you can see whether your system is still performing according to the standards. And if it is outside that standards, you need, of course, to do maintenance and to see how you can rectify the delivery. So there's different switches, and then, of course, with the drip system that you apply, and there's the results. There's a SD card that you can take out, put in your computer, and you can then calculate what is the total amount of water delivered with the CV. So then the last technology is green drum technology. If the drippers are blocked, normally phosphoric acid or other methods are used. This is innovative technology known as green drum technology, which uses ultrasound in a small body of water to effectively and quickly clean drip irrigation lines. You can see the dripper lines put through a bath of ultrasonic sound, and it will clean the pipe. And you will see there how the dirt and the manganese and iron oxide deposits will then be cleaned out and bring it back to acceptable CV. This is a dripper that has been taken out. You can see as soon as you put it in the water how it will clean it with the ultrasound. There's the old dripper and the one that has been cleaned with the ultrasound technique. And this is available. If there's any entrepreneur that would like to take this up, they can talk to me. And then just concluding remarks. Technology play a vital role in micro-irrigation today in terms of what the farmer is confronted with, but also what we as designers or planners are confronted with. So there's even a number of exhibitors next door where you can visit and see what technologies they have to offer. And in terms of the way we are developing is towards utilizing drip more and more over the world. So in conclusion, drip irrigation success depends on the correct choice, optimal design, and proper operation and maintenance practices to effectively ensure that available water resources are utilized effectively. I thank you.